The vibes are going good, but we do have ourselves some negative news surrounding the Montreal Canadiens following their Game 3 victory over the Washington Capitals. Now, some of the big stories that everybody was talking about in my comment section all over social media in different parts of the hockey world involved the bench brawl between Tom Wilson and Josh Anderson. They involved the goaltending, they involved Martin St. Louis' decisions, and just the way the Canadiens played their game. Well, we do have ourselves a bunch of updates that I wanted to dive into right here, starting out with a whole bunch of news on Sammy Montembeault. Now, I wanted to go out there and give some opinions from folks that probably are a lot smarter than I am. Okay, not probably. Definitely. Dr. Harjas Gruwal went out there and tweeted this yesterday during the game. Something is up with Montembeault. Would not surprise me if Dobesh comes in next TV timeout. Matt Drake went out there and said, and Dr. Gruwal went out there and replied saying, it's possible that Samuel Montembeault has a hamstring strain and that's why he left the game. Hopefully it's more of a cramp and he's potentially back even for the third. Otherwise, muscular strains can be quite variable and harder for goalies to compensate. Now, if you were paying attention, Sammy Montembeault did not end up getting the victory yesterday because he was not in net when the game-winning goal, the fourth Canadiens goal, was scored. Jakub Dobesh got the win. So even though Montembeault has had some pretty good numbers so far, he doesn't have that dub. And now we had ourselves Sammy Montembeault's status confirmed by Martin St. Louis. Okay, it's not really confirmed, but St. Louis did say that Sammy Montembeault is still being evaluated, and he won't rule Montembeault out for Game 4 yet, with this evaluation still ongoing. So this, of course, is going to be a little bit dire, a little bit desperate here for the Canadiens because Sammy Montembeault has been lights out, honestly, the past little while. Sure, you can talk about the rebounds, sure, you can talk about how he's not perfect, but for what Montembeault can realistically provide the Habs, he's been doing that the past few games against Washington. It's been a good coming out party in the playoffs for Sammy Montembeault. The first Montreal Canadiens goaltender to start the playoffs, not named Carey Price in, what was it, a decade and a half? Something like that? It was some crazy statistic that was being talked about in Game 1. But anyways, Sammy Montembeault not necessarily confirmed or taken out for Game number 4. Jakub Dobesh seems like this could be his time to shine here. He could go all Artur Shilovs and Washington in the same way that the Canucks had their backup goaltender doing well last season. Obviously, Dobesh is a lot better than the backup's backup at this point, but if you had told anybody in Montreal in August or in September of 2024, hey, the Habs are going to make the playoffs, firstly. They're going to squeak in as the last wild card. And Jakub Dobesh is going to start a game. If you said that to any Habs fan back in August, September, they would have been like, what? Really? Dobesh is going to start? What happened to Montembeault? What happened to Primo? How'd they make the playoffs? Like, there's a lot of conversation that you could bring up with the Habs in that respect. So, again, it's bonus hockey. It's house money. We just got to be happy that the Canadiens are still finding ways to make things entertaining. It's just, of course, it's not fun to see Sammy Montembeault get hurt. Although, we do have ourselves some other news here. Speaking on guys getting hurt, we got some guys getting hurt financially. Because Josh Anderson and Tom Wilson have been handed fines from the NHL Department of Player Safety. Wilson has been fined $5,000, the maximum allowable under the CBA, for unsportsmanlike conduct during last night's game in Montreal. And Josh Anderson also got the fine $5,000 allowable under the CBA for unsportsmanlike conduct during last night's game against Washington. Not surprising, considering the brawl in the bench. It's not really something you're gonna want to encourage between these guys. But now you've got a whole bunch of folks going out there and replying with memes like this. Zach puts this in the replies. It's Josh Anderson babying Tom Wilson. Oh yeah, baby. Talk that smack, won't ya? It's just so intriguing to me that this has become the narrative here. Obviously, for Tom Wilson, if there's anybody in the NHL that I think deserves this sort of treatment, it could very well be Tom Wilson. Everybody is being done a service here by Josh Anderson by going after Tommy Wilson and taking him out in the way that he did. He's not going to be pushed around, that Josh Anderson. He's a big guy. He just took Tom Wilson onto the bench, was wailing on him, fighting out with him, and honestly, I said this yesterday in the postgame, I'll say it again, Josh Anderson might have just validated the entire dollar amounts worth of money that he had on that contract that everybody likes to go out there and hate on so much. Everybody hated on the contract back when it was given to him, back when Marc Bergevin traded Domi for him, and then they re-signed him to that money because Domi didn't want to go long-term, so we sent him over to Columbus, and they got Josh Anderson, and Marc Bergevin was like, okay, here, we'll give you the long-term money, Josh Anderson. And I think I said in the post-game off the top of my head, it was $5.5 million. Let's look that up right here. I probably should have had the number in front. Yeah, $5.5 million. So, big money. But I think Canadiens fans would gladly pay $5.5 million to see Tom Wilson get dummied in the way that he did. Oh, it's so funny. The memes, man, they're perfect. Even though these guys did get fined, and we recognize that $5,000 each is chump change for these athletes who are making millions and millions of dollars a year, what's $5,000 out of $5.5 million? Who cares? And if it's for a moment like that, yeah, I think I'd rather pay that instead. Obviously not $5,000, but comparative to my salary, you can do the math and figure it out. Yeah, I'd rather pay a few $100s to see Tom Wilson getting pushed around there. Josh Anderson, man, he's become so vindicated the past few weeks here. Not just with his on-ice play, but with the antics, the leadership, just him, Gallagher, Dvorak together. What happened with these guys? Where was this out of this group of guys the past 2 or 3 years? I mean, Gallagher's been getting the hate too before this season because, oh, his contract, he's not really all too great anymore. Oh, we're seeing his greatness again, baby. Maybe he's not scoring 30 goals a year like he was at one point in his career, but he's doing some pretty good work. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these pieces of Habs news. Tom Wilson, Josh Anderson getting the big fines, Sammy Montembeault still being evaluated. We'll see what happens for tomorrow in Montreal, but yeah, I said in yesterday's postgame that we'll figure out what happens with the Sammy Montembeault conversation based off of what the Habs do, whether or not they call somebody up or whatever, but like, it hasn't happened. They're just here, and Montembeault's still being evaluated. So it's not really all too confirmed right now, but we will see what happens later on. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Montreal Canadiens, Tom Wilson, Josh Anderson, as well as Sammy Montembeault. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.